Most often we need to pick up stitches evenly for a neckband. That's why I'm going to use a mock neckline to show you how this method works. But the same principles apply to any case where we need to pick up stitches evenly from any edge of our project. This is a three-step process. In the first step, we're going to divide the edge into equal segments. And we'll need a bunch of ballpoint pens, safety pins, or locking stitch markers to help us with that. We start by finding a point where we're gonna start to pick up stitches. If it is a straight edge, then we start at the right hand side of the future band. If it is an armhole, then we start at the bottom of the armhole. If it is a neckline, traditionally we start at the left shoulder seam. And left means the seam that's gonna sit on our left shoulder when we wear this sweater or whatever it is. So it's a bit confusing because when we look at it like this, it's gonna be actually at the right side. Why left shoulder seam? I have no idea. I guess it's just a tradition. So technically you can start wherever you like around the neckline, but I'm gonna honor the tradition and start right here. So I find the spot, I take one of the pins and insert it perpendicular to the edge so that the sharp point of the pin sticks out at the edge. And this way I would know that this pin is different from the rest of the pins that we're going to insert in a moment. So this is our starting pin. If the edge is straight, then the next thing you do is insert the pin into the other end of the future band. If the edge is circular, as is the case over here, then we pinch the fabric around the first pin, then align the edge, two sides of this circle, to find the spot that is opposite the first pin on the other side of it. And we insert the pin over there. Again, we go perpendicular to the edge, but this time the sharp point of the needle of the pin is looking away from the edge, like this. So here's what we've got. We separated this edge into two equal parts. Now we need to separate it more until we have segments that are about 5 centimeters to 2 inches wide. And we do it by aligning the first two pins, then again fold the fabric, find the spot that is in the middle, and place a pin over there. And do the same thing on the other side of the circle of our future neckband. So these segments are probably big enough already, but I'm gonna separate them some more to show you how it works. It works in a very simple way. So we simply align the two neighboring pins. Any two pins will do, so you can start wherever you like. Find the midpoint and place a pin over there. And then while we are at it, we can align these two because it's kind of already aligned almost, and place a pin over there. And then we open and then align the other two pairs of pins. And we keep going until the segments are all of the same length, because this is the key point. That's why we need to divide the edge to have the segments that are of an equal length. Well, approximately, don't have to measure each segment and kind of verify, but approximately kind of looks okay so far. Because my neckline is so small, then 8 segments is enough. But if the neckline is bigger, then you will have to divide it into 16 or 32 or even more segments. But as you see, it happens really fast. It's not a complicated task at all. Now we are ready to move to the second step. And the second step would be about mass. It's a very simple mass, so don't be scared, nothing complicated at all. But we need to determine how many stitches we have to pick up from each of these segments. And we do it by dividing the total number of stitches that we need to pick up for the neckband in this case by the number of segments that we formed right here at the edge that we need to work with. In my case, I know that I need to make a nice looking neckband. I need to pick up 21 stitches. And I have 8 segments over here. So what I do, I divide 21 by 8 and I get a result of 2.625 stitches. So it's almost 3 stitches, like 2.5 plus stitches that I need to pick up from each segment. And you understand that it is impossible to pick up 2.625 stitches, right? Because we cannot pick up a 0.625 stitch. Half a stitch, a little bit more than half a stitch. And that's a problem that we solve easily again by another 2 simple calculations. First, we multiply the whole number that we get from the previous calculation. That's going to be 2 stitches in my case. We multiply it by the number of segments to see how many stitches we can evenly distribute between these segments. So in my case, it's going to be 2 stitches by 8 segments means 16 stitches. So 16 stitches fit perfectly into this little neckline. But I have 21 stitches, right? So I need to see how many stitches are extra stitches, the ones that don't fit nicely, the troublemakers, so to say, right? Because we cannot just discard them. We do need them. Otherwise, the neckline, the neckband would be ill-fitting, and that's not what we need for our projects, right? So we make another super simple calculation. We subtract the number of stitches that we can evenly distribute, 16 stitches in my case, from the total number of stitches that we need to pick up from the edge. So in my case, it's going to be 21 stitches total, less 16 stitches that I can evenly distribute between 8 segments. That makes it 5 stitches that are extra stitches that I need to fit in somewhere. And we're gonna simply distribute them evenly. So I have 8 sections, so I'm gonna probably place these 4 stitches over here, the sides of the seam, and then 1 stitch somewhere at the back. And once you decide where you're gonna distribute the stitches, place pins into those segments, but to make them special, place them parallel to the edge. Let's say I'm gonna put 1 stitch over here, so I place a pin over here, you can see it. Then I will put another stitch over here, and then 2 more stitches at the other side of the neckline. And then I'll place the 5th stitch, extra stitch, probably at the back so it doesn't get in the way of the nice fit of the neckline. So we marked everything. So we found the foster homes, so to say, to our extra stitches. And now we know where we're gonna pick up stitches and how many of stitches we're gonna pick up from each segment. So basically, if the segment does not have that parallel pin, then I will pick up 2 stitches. If it does have a parallel pin, I'm gonna pick up 3 stitches. So we are all set with doing the preparation, and now eventually we can take the needles and the yarn and start picking up stitches. One word about the needles. Usually they should be in a size that is smaller than the size used to make the main fabric of the project, but of course follow the pattern instructions, whatever the pattern tells you. And I recommend using circular needles because they work perfectly well in cases when we need to work in the round, and also in cases when the straight line is really long, as usually happens with the fronts of cardigans. Then we can fit all these stitches easily and effortlessly into a circular needle. So my go-to needles in this case are circular needles, but of course it's up to you. So then we get and find this first pin, the starting point. Remember, we inserted it so that the sharp point is at the edge side, and that's how we know that it is a starting point. And I look at the first segment because we're gonna go to the left of that starting point, you know, and pick up stitches like that, because that's how we knit, right? We knit from right to left. And I'm gonna kind of imagine, okay, I need to pick up 3 stitches from here because I have this pin, the parallel pin over here. So I'm gonna kind of decide, okay, where do I pick up stitches? I will probably go over here and then probably over there and then somewhere in between. So it's just kind of in your imagination, try to assign spots for those future stitches. And then insert the needle at the first spot where you kind of imagined it to be, a few strands away from the edge. It could be 1 to 3 strands. If the edge is bound off with the chain of stitches, then of course go under that chain of stitches. If it is a side edge, as is the case over here, I will leave 2 strands away from the edge and then insert the needle over there. And then take the yarn. I'm going to use yarn in a contrasting color so it's easier for you to see what's going on, and place it, fold it, leaving a small tail, and place it on the needle, and then pull this this yarn through the fabric. And it's not going to be easy for me because I use the needle that is not smaller, just to make the stitches bigger so you can see them properly. So I'm going to struggle a little bit, but it doesn't have to be like that if you use a needle that is in a size smaller than the one used to make the fabric. And then pull this wrap through, forming your first picked up stitch, picked up and knitted, right? And then we go into the next spot. So the third one was over here, so I'm aiming somewhere in between, right over there. Insert the needle front to back, wrap it with the yarn. You can do it either with your right hand, like this, or you can do it with your left hand. There is absolutely no difference. And then pull this wrap through the fabric, forming the second stitch that we are about to pick up from this segment of the edge. Then we come to the third stitch, and here's an interesting thing. The third stitch was formed when this neckline was shaped. That's why it is a little bit loose. See, it's quite loose actually. And if I go in there and then pick up a stitch from here, that will form a hole. That will stretch basically that stitch. And that doesn't look nice. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna drop the stitch, unravel it, and that's actually what you can easily do anytime you want to correct something. And then I'm gonna go 1 strand away from that hole. So I can go either this way, just 1 strand closer to the edge, but I'm gonna actually go into the very depths. See, I see there is this dense spot. So I'm gonna go into that dense spot to make sure that there is no hole at all happening right underneath the stitch. And then I go pick the yarn, pull it through, and see, no hole at all. So this is very important. As you pick up stitches, see what's going on with the neckline or whatever edge you're working with, because it matters how you pick up stitches. It matters whether it will form a hole or not. So be mindful of that. And now that we worked this segment, I can easily remove this pin, the parallel pin that showed me that I need to pick up 3 stitches from here, and I can also probably remove the starting point because we already started, so we know where it is, right? Then I have the next segment, and in this segment I don't have any parallel pins, so I know that I need to pick up 2 stitches from here. So I'm gonna go probably over here and then over here and do this exactly the same thing. So I pick up a stitch, insert the needle into the fabric, then pick up the yarn, and then pull it through, and then do it again and again and again. And as I work the segment, I remove the pin, and I will keep going, picking up stitches around the whole neckline in exactly the same manner. Remember to watch those parallel pins. If it is a parallel pin in that segment, that means 1 extra stitch to pick up. And And here's my last stitch to pick up. I remove the last pin, and here we go. The first stitch is obviously a bit loose because the tail is not attached to anything, but that's easily fixed when we weave in the tail, then we just adjust the size of that stitch. Otherwise, as you see, the stitches are nicely evenly spaced. And as I start working on these stitches, I will make a beautiful neckband like this one. See, no puckering, no stretched segments, everything is absolutely lovely, evenly distributed. So all that prep work that we did was well worth it. As you notice, it is much easier to pick up stitches from an edge that does not look like staircase. And to make an edge like that, go to 10roseday.com/sloped-bind off to bind off stitches without staircase effect as you shape the neckline or the armhole or whatever else curves you are shaping in your project. And to get the full tutorial about this method, the picking up stitches evenly along any edge of your project, go to 10roseday.com/pickup-stitches-evenly. Happy knitting, my friend. I'll talk to you in the next tutorial.